intercultural competence, as they call it today, learning to think in different cultural patterns, not staying only in your own Christian, Western thinking, but also being able to to go into a Muslim context, in an Arabic context, in an Asian context. And so what I did was putting 2-3 stories from different cultures, but with the same message together, so that the persons have to reflect what is the connection between these three. And sometimes I really like a Buddhist story and a story of Jesus, a parable of Jesus, that are almost the same. But then you have to ask, but what is then different? Because the same story is used in a different context. And then from there you can start to understand how a Buddhist thinks and how a Christian thinks. So that, for me, that was a very nice exercise. Good day, I'm Father Peter Bekelmans of the Congregation of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. I'm a Roman Catholic priest and very much into dialogue, especially with Buddhism, but I also teach Buddhism, Hinduism, Eastern religions at the university in Louvain. I'm for the moment here in Rome as director of SEDOS, which is an organization that serves more than 85 missionary religious congregations. So we try to give them update on what is mission today, what are the people of today, what is the thinking, what are the society today moving towards. So that is my work I'm doing here for the moment. I'm from origin Belgian, but I've worked 20 years in Japan as a missionary. From there my love also for Asia, Eastern religions, but it started already before I left for the mission. I had a Jewish teacher when I finished my secondary school. I did not know well what to study. I could go many directions, but in the end I did not know. And I was blessed to find a Jewish teacher who had created his own university, in which I was able to study many directions, and little by little find out that I was mostly interested in religion, comparative religion, also parapsychology, was very much interested. And so little by little I deepened that interest. And then after a time I thought maybe it's not only an interest of intellectual interest, but maybe also my person as a whole. I like to be a religious person. And that's where, after my studies in comparative religion, I had to do my military service. After the military service, I did a first year in theology in Louvain. And then I took a holiday and I went on pilgrimage to the south of France, to a very Latin monastery in Le Barou, and then later on to Thésée. And it was in Thésée that I was blessed with an experience. I heard a voice telling me, Peter, it's time to make a decision. And though at that moment I really broke down, I felt I have to become a religious. And it was a joy. Two kinds of tears came up. One was a joy of having found what I really wanted to do. And another one was pity that I could not travel anymore, what I wanted to do. Once in religious life, you have to have a vow of obedience. But in the end, it was not that way. I never traveled so much as after my becoming a missionary. And then there is still also the fact that I'm from a twin, with my twin sister Vera. When I entered religious life, she was crying. She was angry at the Skut fathers that they took me, no? But little by little, she started to look also deeper into herself. And when I was going to do my first Mass, the evening before, she asked me to come over. I did not know for what, but it was I had to shave her head, no? For her, she's not in a religious congregation. She's with a yoga teacher, and very much into Hindu, but she's also Christian. But she asked me to shave her head, and so in that way, for her, that was the vow to be celibate also. Before entering the religious life, I asked from my parents whether I could go to India 3 months before, because after it I thought it will not be possible anymore. So they granted me that one. And that was a very nice experience, where I ended up in Varanasi, before called Benares, on the 8th of the 8th of 88, the 8th of August in 1988. And then, yeah, I wanted to do like the Hindus and also entering into the Ganges. You have to have already a little bit of faith to enter there, no? And then when I came out, there was one Hindu priest who offered a prayer, and I only had to give him like 50 rupees. But then the other day, when I was walking around there, an Hindu priest also asked me to do a prayer for me. And I asked, how much is it? He said, only $50, Father. But that was quite different. No. And so I understood also, little by little, that in every religion there is the beauty and there is the beast, so to speak. And so you have to learn to look at the beauty and to see that the beast does not bite you. By going to these different cities, it's very nice. Jerusalem, I went there in preparation for my priesthood, before I was going to be ordained a priest. In the end, I had a Jewish girlfriend who was from Haifa. And she came over to Jerusalem to visit me there. And she had brought as a present a talit, a Jewish prayer cloth. And so I went with her to pray at the Wailing Wall. The ladies have to be in a separate place, I there. And it was very beautiful. When it was finished, she gave me that shawl as her present for my priesthood. But another thing happened there at the Wailing Wall for me. Having had a Jewish teacher, he passed away the day after I entered religious life. That was when I touched that wall, it was as if I was touching my Jewish master again. It was a very beautiful experience. He had been there twice. He was a very devout, more the liberal aspect. He was very mystic. First Mass, I invited a Buddhist priest from Japan, a Hindu teacher from India, to join the celebration and to do what was possible within our Catholic liturgy, to be part of it, to show that other religions are not against us. They also love us and they also want to be part of our way of doing things, but at the same time also being on their own thing. No? And so we have to find ways how we can be more open to each other, respecting their way of doing in love. But it is a long way. It's a long way because the more you love one person, the less you can see the beauty of the other person. And you think that looking at the beauty of the other is already a kind of transgressing your love, no? And that should not be. We should remain in in that openness. No, pure gold does not fear the fire, I say. So we have to be comfortable with our own religion, but being open to other religions too. And little by little, I hope that the bridge between the religions can be crossed more and more. But my father had difficulty to accept other religious traditions. And I came to realize that that was given to me also at the age of 20. And I thought, no, this is not correct. No, and I had a Jewish teacher I loved very much. And I thought, no. And so I started to say, no, we have to find out how we are related and that we can come closer. In the Catholic tradition, we have the Justice and Peace movement, which is very strong and wants to work in the world for a more just and a more peaceful world. But among the world of religions, you have the same. We also there have to work for justice. Who are you? And respecting that the other, what is the other? But also harmony, peace, and to work for that. And my studies are in that line. My way happened to be more into the world of Asia, Buddhism, Hinduism. It could have been different, should have been different because I had a Jewish teacher, but I found that Judaism, Protestantism, Islam are still the one God accepting, no? Where at the others you don't know. Is it polytheism? Is it henotheism as they call? You don't know. So loving the other also in being different on a religious level. That's what I like to work for and what I tried for. But as a theologian, as a Christian, I'm very much in search for what is then God for Buddhists. It is not to make them Christian, no? And also not we Christian Buddhists. It is to see where do we connect, because if our God is a true experience of us, it should be universal. And there we have to look and to search. And it is in that aspect of emptiness, interrelatedness that we cannot see, which Buddhism is really teaching us. And through that, it is teaching us that from the moment you say, this is it is not. So I came to the insight that it is about the hiddenness of God, which we somehow have forgotten in the Christian tradition. We have stressed so much that God is revealed in Jesus, in the world, no? Through the Bible, through the sacraments, that we forget that in the end, God has never revealed himself or herself completely. We don't know. And we have to respect that there is always what Luther has called Deus absconditus, against the Deus revelatus, which we know very well, but sometimes we make it a way to distinguish us from other religious traditions, which is not correct. The conviction that the world is beyond our grasp. And God loves it, protects it, but we are also the co-creators. And we have also our responsibility in it. Might be hard to think, but even if we are not anymore, the world is still, God is still. Amen. Wow, che bello! Nice. While reflecting on human suffering, Shakyamuni Buddha went more deeply into the universal experience of suffering. He started to discern the real cause of our human suffering, namely our desires, called klesha. Our desires are relentless. That is why we give them arbitrary numbers like 108 desires or 84,000 desires. The three basic kleshas, the three poisons, are ignorance, attachments, and aversion. The term klesha is difficult to translate. Human attitudes such as attachment, indulgence, impatience, and so forth are part of it. They all rise from a selfish lifestyle, from egotism. When we live our life pursuing our own desires, we have the wrong attitude and can only create a life of suffering. For instance, in pursuit of riches, we may make other people suffer, and we build up new bad karma for ourselves. This karma will find its way back to its creator, as surely as a calf will find its way back to its mother within a herd of cows. The book of Job in the Old Testament is a lesson in accepting that not all suffering has a reason, or it is beyond our reason. It is therefore important to learn to discern these different views on suffering and to enter into dialogue with other cultures and religions to understand them better. Each of them contains a huge lesson for life. When a missionary contracts hepatitis, as I did, it can come from too heavy a workload in a poor and hot climate, which is the suffering of the cross, or it can come as a consequence of the strong drinks in the evening to compensate for the heavy work, which would be karmic suffering, or it can come from a viral infection, which is drama. In the second case, his sickness is not a cross, a suffering of the cross he has to carry as missionary, but it is to realize that drinking alcohol in a hot country is too taxing on the liver. This book is my last book on the Jesus and Kukai, which is an English translation of a Japanese book I wrote as a result of my doctorate and other studies, in which I try to place the thinking of Jesus and the thinking of Kukai, the founder of Shingon esoteric Buddhism in Japan, to show that their basic thinking, as well as the theology that came after it, is thinking in non-dual way, a world of non-duality. Here it is a play of word, because I want to say that Christianity and Buddhism is also not really separated. It's also non-dual, but it is also the teaching they gave is also non-dual. When you enter the world of religion, you enter in a world that does not want to separate things. Discernment is important to know that there is a difference, but more important is to find out how we are related. God is conscious. No, consciousness is God. No, because once you get into that consciousness, you're connected with everything. You're enlightened. You get that compassion for the Mahayana Buddhist tradition. For the Vajrayana Buddhism, you get into the mystical world of the Buddha, where the Buddha is able to save other people, because you are in that world. As Christians, we are not in that world. We are in the world with Jesus. And we read about Jesus and we love the way he stood in the world. And that's yeah. You cannot explain that, why you like then more Jesus as Buddha. You cannot explain that, and you should also not explain too much. A young Vietnamese priest I was talking with the other day in Paris, he was explaining me his vocation. And that was just by reading in the Bible the words that Jesus gave his life for everyone. No, he gave his life to save everyone. And then he put it very much on himself, and he said, Jesus saved me. No? He saved me. And that he had to cry 2-3 days. And then he chose the religious life, and he's now studying just the problem of redemption in the Christian thinking. How come that that is our belief, no? Jesus saves the world. No, but what does that mean? How do you get into it? The first thing is that by doing yoga, the body and the mind starts to come into agreement. And I went for a 1 month yoga teacher training course in Nashik in India during my sabbatical. Was one of the things I wanted always to do. And there they also stress very much the importance of that doing yoga, but do also a bit your prayer before and after. It has to be the whole, no? It has to be, it is praying with the body, you can say. If you do correctly, then you pray with the body. And as a Christian, you do Christian yoga, so you pray as a Christian. But it is what they say there in the yoga philosophy is that when you do yoga, even without knowing anything around, your emotional life gets stabilized. The body and the mind gets into unity, and that means also your emotions. It's not one part is because the body is strengthened. One has a stronger mental and emotional aspect, but it has also to do with just sitting silent, a form of meditation. In fact, you're doing. It's a form of meditation. That's when you see Iyengar is one of the famous yoga teachers of our time, and when you see his book, on the front page you have all the postures, but in the back you have the meditation posture, just sitting in a lotus position. So that kind of the yoga that leads to union of body and mind. But when you go deeper and deeper, you also start to get that union with the world around you. We are here at the most beautiful piazza almost in the world, I think. The Piazza San Pietro, in front of the Basilica San Pietro, one of the biggest churches in the world, but also most important because St. Peter was buried here now. And we have a very nice piazza constructed with the idea that it is an abbraccio. You are taken into the arms of God, you can say, when you walk in. In olden times, there was not that big street leading to the piazza. It were all small streets. And the idea of Michelangelo was that people are embraced by the church. And that's, in fact, our wish also as church, to embrace the people in the right way. But that beauty, the beauty of the building itself, the beauty inside of Michelangelo's Pietà. At the age of 24, he made something so beautiful. I have to think of it, and I already get a bit emotional. So beautiful, no? Surely if you believe in Christ, in the life he led and the way he died. Common human experience. There is also the common human experience of the beauty. And beauty by an artist is also, in a sense, an experience of non-duality. You see something, you imagine something, and you become one with that. And you want to give that a vision, an image, make it visible. That experience of a special union with the world around and making it in an expression that can last for centuries, like this one. That's something incredible. And in fact, the same is done by a scientist. A scientist, for the artist, we speak about inspiration. For a scientist, we speak about intuition. You have an idea and you say, but this must be it. And then you start searching, thinking, trying to find out whether what you have thought is correct. But that thought in your mind is what you see from the world in union with your thinking. And that's what St. Thomas Aquinas said. Truth is the union of these two, the object outside and the object in our mind. And when these two unite, you have truth. And so here you see another way of understanding that union with the world around us. And we will come later also to the aspect of human love, this love for the neighbor, and also in the end about union with nature, ecology, deep ecology. We come to that later on. Let's enjoy the beauty of this place. Thank you. Do I already have to throw? Well, we can miss a bit of money, huh? So, we are at a Trevi Fontaine, and many people throw a piece of money over the back, not knowing where it will arrive. And they do a wish to come back one day to Rome. It's an old system, an old habit, and no one knows why, but all do it. And it's not only for the fun, they also mean it. And this kind of a popular belief, where does it come from? It's very nice for the city of Rome, because every year they have more than €1 million they can give to the poor, if they really give it, But it's the same as what in Buddhism is taught with karma. It's also something you do, and it will have effect the same moment, a day later, a year later, maybe in next lives, you don't know. And so this kind of thinking, which is karmic thinking, is in fact the same way. You believe that something will go on. And why? Because there is behind that belief that everything is connected. The world is connected, time is connected, everything is connected. And you cannot explain that. But if you want to believe Buddhism, understand Buddhism, you need to accept that kind of non-dual thinking. Everything is linked. You cannot separate things, even if we would love to. Our dear ones we feel very much linked with. But when we separate from someone, we have to do it in love, even if we have to separate. Because if we really cut with a person, with things, then we also suffer ourselves. We will also take the suffering of that upon us. So that way we have to keep always the bond well between people, also with the world around us, because we are part of the world, and the world is also part of me. Thank you.